Good evening. On behalf of the College of Arts and Sciences, Department of Religion, the Elie Wiesel Center for Judaic Studies, and the Other Within, it is my pleasure to welcome you, BU students, staff, alumni, colleagues, and friends to a sister act, a conversation on growing up Jewish in New Hampshire and making the best of it. You knew that, right? That was the title. Yes, you knew that. The Other Within is a BU Jewish Studies faculty initiative funded by a grant from the Center for Cultural Judaism that helps us bring events such as tonight's conversation to campus. We also bring new topics and approaches to the classroom. Last year, we introduced a course on the modern Jewish experience where we explored literature, music, film, and historical sources to get a sense of the hope as well as the anxiety that accompanied the process of transformation of the Jews from a set of incorporated ethno-religious communities governed by religious authority and ritual conformity to a diverse modern people living across the globe searching for the meaning of being Jewish in a myriad of forms of self-expression. This fall, we offer another new course on Jewish heretics, exploring themes of otherness, heterodoxy, and the social forces of normativity and exclusion, universal issues for which Jewish history offers many examples. Next semester, and again in the fall of 2012, we will offer a course on Judaism and politics, looking at the forms and foundations of Jewish politics and Judaism as a political tradition, from the Bible to the modern state of Israel and AIPAC. Check out the beautiful brochures for information on other classes and events. Tonight, we are hosting a conversation with BU alumna and Reform Rabbi Susan Silverman. And her sister, actress, comedian Sarah Silverman. It does not take much imagination to understand the connection.
Sorry.
To understand the connection between this event and the theme of our initiative, The Other Within. Susan Silverman is a rabbi and a mother. Though she lives in Jerusalem now, she grew up in New Hampshire, attended BU, and is a long-standing member of the Newton Jewish community. Jewish tradition is for her not just something ready-made one can slip into quietly. As someone who has adopted 2 children from a very different culture and background, she challenges what being Jewish means.
They're from Weston. You funny.
What it means to be part of a tradition that to no small degree centers on family and continuity. And if I read her theology of adoption correctly, she's iron hard in her commitment to honesty, confronting the hard questions directly, and with the belief that there's nothing to be gained by sugarcoating or hiding difficult truths about identity, difference, and belonging. Susan's younger sister, Sarah, is best known for the character or persona she created, also known as Sarah Silverman. The confusion between person and persona, author and stage character,
is a university.
Makes us wonder about the boundary between life and art. Where other funny women put ethnic identity at the center of their act, think Margaret Cho or Helen Hong, and achieve laughter by inviting complicity, Sarah's stage character keeps us swerving between attraction and repulsion. What is the source of the strength required to stage oneself in front of an audience and appear as an odiously obtuse and self-absorbed poster child of Generation Me? It seems to me that the humanity discernible behind the sharp edge of Sarah's humor, really the sense of self behind the unsettling persona, is sustained to a large extent by the love and intimacy shared within the Silverman family. Another sister, Laura, prominently appears in Jesus is Magic and on the Sarah Silverman program. I can't even say that without stumbling.
You're doing great.
Thank you. Sarah's memoir, The Bedwetter, is nothing if not an homage to her family. Her father, Donald, right here in the first row, who taught her to swear in public. Her mother, who modeled what it meant to pursue one's ambitions. Her step-parents, her loving grandparents, and finally Susan, the rabbi, and her husband with the impossibly Jewish name. Putting herself out there seems possible because she's protected by a deep solidarity and love maintained by her family and her circle of friends, and there are many of those in the audience tonight as well. I'm sure there's a lesson for all of us here. Before I hand over the microphone, I know you can't wait, to our moderator, Dean Gina Sapiro, let me thank those without whose help and support this evening would not have been possible. Diana Klepper, Chair of Religion, who had the idea for this program, and without whose friendship with Susan Silverman, it would not have happened. Jocelyn Nicholas, graduate assistant to the other within, who must have exchanged emails with everyone in this room at least once, and whose exemplary attention to detail was unwavering. Nicole Trollstrup, undergraduate assistant to the Elie Wiesel Center and social media czar, twittering away as we speak. Teresa Cooney, graduate assistant to the Elie Wiesel Center, who kept all the other trains running and helped me to stay on track. Karen Nadella, administrator to the religion department, who found practical solutions to everything, and the Jewish Cultural Endowment for providing generous additional funding. Thank you very much. What? Stretch. Stretch what?
What is
Okay, you're on.
He left. Does that mean we're on?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know how to follow that. But thank you both for being here. This was billed as about New Hampshire. We're going to spend about 3 or 4 minutes on New Hampshire. I have to say I'm really curious because I have a home in New Hampshire, and I do know another Jew in New Hampshire. They live 24 miles away, and they know Jews in New Hampshire. We live 24 miles away, and that's about it. So I'm really wondering, since both of you in so many ways are Jewish and have a lot of Jewishness about you, or as you both write it, Jewiness. How did you discover you were Jewish, and what did that mean when you were a kid? Either of you, what was your experience of what Jewish meant where you lived?
Growing up, we were the only Democrats. And so I thought that being Jewish meant that you were a Democrat. So like I remember the McGovern campaign, and I was like, oh, if you're Jewish, you vote for McGovern, and if you're Christian, you vote for Nixon.
Wow. I always say I didn't know I was Jewish until like kids started blaming me for my people killing Jesus. And even then I was like, it's not like we killed baby Jesus, you know. He had quite a run.
Yeah. Actually, I grew up in a similar place, and it was when they pushed me off my bike. Oh. Figured that out and called me a Christ killer, and then I figured it out myself. So you both...
That's when you say, like, if I killed your God, just imagine what I could do to you. I wouldn't push you off my bike.
Oh, I was a lot more realistic because I was going to be an academic, and so I said, wait a second, how long ago was that? And I said, but I'm 9. So then you both left eventually, and one of you went to Boston and the other went to New York. Did that change anything in the way you thought about being Jewish? Did you encounter, I mean, you obviously encountered more Jews there, but did that lead you to think about it anymore, or lead to a different experience or understanding of what that meant?
I don't know if this has to do with Jewishness, but I know that I went through a hard time for a few years. And when my stepfather asked me to describe it, I said, I feel like I'm homesick. Like I feel that homesick feeling, but I'm home. And then I know that when I moved to New York, I felt like that was satiated for me. And I think it was, I felt like a goat in a sea of, what's another animal besides a goat? Dogs. And then I moved to New York, and there were, I didn't want to say sheep because it just sounds like everyone was a sheep but me. But I mean, I felt like, and then
Just all dogs.
Kangaroos?
I moved to New York, and there were other goats. That's what I'm saying. There were other goats, and I was like, oh.
But did that, was it kind of conscious about Jews, or did it just feel like you were more home, that people were more familiar in some way?
For me, it wasn't really necessarily about Jewishness in the front of my consciousness.
Yeah, I think for me, I had like sort of two parallel things going on. One was like, oh my God, like I was at BU and there were all these Jews. It was like how people describe coming to Israel the first time. You're just like, oh my God, she's Jewish and she's Jewish. And these professors are Jewish. Like I couldn't believe how many Jews there were. And then the other, like on the other level, I was thinking, who cares? Like, and I thought people who like went to Hillel or people who like only dated Jewish people, I thought like, oh, that's like so narrow-minded. So on one hand, I was sort of thrilled. On the other hand, I was like.
So there was something I was reading today it was your interview with Piers Morgan, I think. I was reading this where last April, Sarah, you said, I'm a Jew in that it oozes out of my pores uncontrollably. And personally, I have no religion. I'm Jewy beyond my control. And Susan, you chose to be a rabbi even though you say that you didn't really know much about it, in the various interviews and so forth, that you didn't really know much of it about it before then. So could you talk more about now how you experience this, whatever it is, Jewiness, Judaism, Jewishness, Yiddishkeit?
That's a very big question.
Yeah. Well, we have an hour.
She was just attracted to the glamour.
Glamour.
Yes. I think Michael sort of hit on it in his opening. That like there's this sort of, in Israel, and I live in Israel now, like there's this tension between people wanting to be sort of the way you can be in the States and be Jewish however you want to be Jewish, and then this sort of orthodox stranglehold on the country that's trying to force everybody to be sort of like McDonald's, just like what you're going to get, what it's going to be, and everything is the same. And so, what was your question?
Well, that's not in a religion, so based on interpretation, right?
Oh, what it means to be now. Yeah. So, and for me, it's like having these common sources in this and this common history that's taken place all over the world that we interpret together and that we like bring, make alive together. But the sort of cookie cutter, like it's very, very hard. So.
How do you experience Jewishness now?
Just the same way I said to Piers Morgan. That was only a couple months ago. I haven't really totally changed. I mean, I don't have religion personally. But I'm Jewish in that it's in my bones.
I was, another thing that you had said, Susan, that was interesting to me is I was reading about your choice to have your son converted in an Orthodox way to becoming Jewish.
Right.
And it was interesting because looking at both of you, the notion of a freedom to be what you want to be, a freedom to be Jewish or not to be Jewish, to express Jewishness in the way you want. And there's this wonderful conflict about, in one way, not being stereotyped and cast to be Jewish in the way other people want you to be. But on the other hand, you felt like you needed to make a choice. You talked about the conflict with your own identity as a Jew, to make sure your son would be understood as Jewish. A lot of people may not know about that. Could you talk about that a little bit?
We have 5 kids. 2 of them are adopted, and they're from Ethiopia. And we did not have an Orthodox conversion.
Ah, okay.
We did not do it in the end. I did want to originally. I felt like it was sort of paying off the neighborhood bully. You know, I'll do this, and you don't harass my kid when he's older. It's really how I felt. But my husband, he really did not want to do that. He said, we're authentic Jews. This is ridiculous. And I was like, no. We're going to have an Orthodox conversion. I just don't want anyone saying later you can't have an aliyah at our synagogue or something. And but then I couldn't do it. I made some phone calls and I couldn't do it. So we had a conversion that made sense for our family and for our Judaism.
That makes sense, because when I was reading about it, and I guess it was at a time when we were thinking of doing it, it really seemed like a deeply conflictual thing to think about.
It was. I wanted to protect my kids.
Yeah.
And even now in Israel, I mean, down the line, there could be problems for them. But we'll take it as it comes, and in the meantime, we'll fight the good fight.
How do you find it in Israel? I want to talk a little bit more about Israel later, but while you're talking about it, to have a mixed race family there, how is that treated now? What's your experience?
Absolutely. I mean, there's no issue. There are lots of Ethiopian kids in my kids' schools. And I mean, just in Israel, there's a whole mix of Jews. It's not predominantly Ashkenazi like it is here. So it's been very natural and fine. I mean, you know, Israelis are really blunt and don't always take a hint. So there have been a couple incidents, like when, you know, like at the hairdressers, the boys are getting their hair cut, and they're saying, so are they your real children? And I'm like, they're all my real children. No, but I mean, are they your real children? They're all my real, I mean, in front of my kids, they're all my real children. You know, there have been a couple things like that, but no big deal. And for the most part, no issues at all.
So I want to get onto other subjects in a minute, but going back to New England, Sarah, one thing that I don't know whether you know, a number of people are really wondering, this is the hometown of Matt Damon. And a lot of people are really wondering, and I know you like to protect your private life, and I've seen interviews on that a lot. A lot of people are wondering, are you going to have a little reunion, and is there another song in your heart, maybe?
You know, it's so funny because when I do shows around the country, there's always some heckler who's like, oh, you still fucking Matt Damon or whatever, you know? And I'm like, no. But I watched it, like I never really watched it. I watched it that first night when it aired or whatever, and you don't, like, I watched it not long ago and I was like, it was funny, and I should not be so annoyed by it because everyone has seen it. But, you know, it really was just, making it was literally 3 hours of my life years ago. And we kept it, we didn't even air it for months and months because there was a writer's strike. But, you know, it was, people are always like, what's Matt Damon like? And I'm like, he seemed really nice from 8 to 11 a.m. when I met him.
Well, all of Boston's proud of you.
Yeah. He is like my favorite actor too, but I can never bring it up because people are like, you know. Did you see Contagion? Oh my God, he was incredible. Right.
So moving on to the subject of humor and combining that with being Jewish, so much of your humor, not all of it, but so much of your humor is Jewish in one way or another, either because of the subject matter or a kind of style that a lot of people see as linked to traditions of Jewish humor. Do you think audiences get you differently depending on whether they're Jewish or not? And, how does that work? Because some things are very insider, or they feel like they're very insider jokes. And so in your audiences, you must have people who get it and don't get it, or get it in different ways. How do you think about that?
Oh, gosh. I don't know. It's funny. A lot of people, when they come up to me, they go, I'm Jewish, or like, my friend is Jewish, and I go, I've never been more Jewish than when I started getting known as a comedian, and because I used it, to be honest, I think, and I also always loved, like when Adam Sandler became so popular and he had that Hanukkah song and so-and-so's Jewish and so-and-so's Jewish. I mean, from a kid who grew up in a town where people didn't know Jewish people, and knowing that it's like that in so many places, which is fine. I don't know, there's tons of different kinds of cultures and religions that I'm completely sheltered from. It doesn't make them bad people, but to be able to have this kind of secular hero, secular means not religious, right? Yeah. That is identified as Jewish, who's like cool. I was like, that's so cool that I liked the idea of, being a Jewish person that, was, look at me, I'm really cool. I don't know if that really answers the question, but what was the question again? Because I feel like I had another thought.
So, when you think about your audiences and some of your humor, where if you go back to the Barack Obama ad and you're talking about insider humor with Jews and their grandparents, or when you take on the Holocaust, or a whole variety of different kinds of things, you have people who know what you're talking about from one point of view because of their Jewish experience, and others who either don't know that or may know it from a very different kind of point of view. And I was wondering how you think about that.
That's true. I feel like the world has become so much smaller because of Google. Like, I'll write something and someone might say, well, kids don't know what that is. I go, well, when I was a kid and I didn't know what something was, I still loved it. Now kids can find out what it is in 8 seconds, and you know what I mean? Like, part of loving something is it not being familiar, not being something that you know about, and I've definitely used Judaism and Jewishness. I've had a lot of license with it, with the Great Schlep, or things like that, or talking about the Holocaust in comedy. I'm stopping myself from like 8 things right now. But then there's also, I get slapped on the wrist because of being Jewish if I talk about things as a human being, as just a member of the human race, or I did a video called Sell the Vatican, Feed the World, and so many people were like, yeah, why don't you say that about something Jewish and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, I'm not talking as a Jew, I'm talking as a person who sees great starvation and hunger and despair in the world, and a house that's a city, it has nothing to do with this religion's better than another. I'm just saying it as an animal on the earth, And in a way, that's how I say any of the jokes about any people, whether I'm one of them or I'm not, because I feel like I'm one of them as just by virtue of being a person.
So that's something you want to applaud?
Thank you.
Of course, it's your cousin, Michael.
It's okay. You don't have to tell. That's something that a lot of people talk about with respect to humor and what kind of humor you can do. And when you seem really out there, it's partly that there are jokes that Jews tell to each other, but they would get really pissed off if somebody else is. Likewise, within race or any other kinds of groups, and you give yourself permission to transgress those, even though there are a lot of people who look at your work and say, you don't have a right to say those things because you're not on the on the inside.
Right.
How do you respond to that?
You know, I organized this show last week in Texas. Rick Perry, the governor of Texas, has a family hunting lodge called N-Word Head, right? And it was like barely news. And so I put together a show called Live from N-Word Head. And there were like got six comics together. And, you know, there are people who were even, I'm not talking about Rick Perry fans, but even, you know, who just didn't feel comfortable with a white or Jewish person putting something like that together. But in the end, we had a blast. It was this great mixed show, and it was really cool. But it is weird that kind of license of who you are, what color your skin is, what your religion is, or whatever. It's just not something I really care to adhere to. Do I want to say the actual word for N-word? No desire. But I think that illuminating it is important when it's barely making news. You know, it's like things that should make history and become something to learn from are just being glazed over, and I think that's dangerous. I think anytime some sort of hate is more than just a gas in the air, it's important to point to it. No, and to only be offended if it's your race or religion is silly.
One of the things that I think is really interesting about the way you approach that humor, I spent some time again today watching on YouTube some of the clips on you, which has been filling my head all day. And one of the things I love the most is it's always pretty easy to tell when you're about to approach something that is...
I have a tell?
You have a tell. And your tell on something that's really going to be hot and for some people nasty is you suddenly get this beatific.
I get adorable.
You get totally adorable. A wonderful smile, a beatific look. Your voice goes so sweet. And I think the thing that there are a couple of questions. One is, how did you do that? Did that just happen, or did you work on that a lot? Because one of the things I think that gets to people is when people do broad humor like that about politics, very often they'll go sort of wink, wink, nod, nod, and, you know, this is really funny. But you don't. You come at that with this face. How did you develop that?
The winking is not my personal preference for comedy, and it wasn't really by design, but then it kind of became that when I did my special Jesus is Magic, I was doing comedy that I feel like I've grown and changed from now. I always think it's important to look back at what you've done a few years ago and cringe, you know, because it means you're moving forward. And I like it. I liked that show, but I forgot everything that just is happening. What was the question?
It's your beatific smile.
Oh, right.
The adorable part.
That was a character, and I parlayed that into my show for Comedy Central, which was this very arrogant, ignorant person, you know? And I love the contrast of that, and I see it in the world, and I liked committing to that for a long time. And, but you know, I figure I've grown and changed a little, and it's tweaked, and my newer stuff is a little different than, you know, I don't want to be 40 and going, I'm saying this innocently, but I don't know, it's weird, you know, like, you have to kind of grow and change and stuff, but.
Yeah, you have one ponytail now and not two pigtails anymore.
Yeah, I know, the last season of my show, I was like, am I gonna be 40 with pigtails going, you know, like, I'm a cartoon character, but I still am wearing a baseball t-shirt, and I don't know. My mom, nothing. Stop there. We're all just molecules.
All right.
Not a wave on the ocean.
Susan, I wanted to come back to you. It's curious to me. You were ordained as a rabbi in 1994. I once considered going to rabbinical school, but if I had done that, I would have been like the second female rabbi in the history of the whole universe, and I thought that was a little bit hard. What did I miss?
I don't know, because I haven't been in the formal rabbinate for a long time. I had a congregation when I was just out of rabbinic school, which is loads of fun, actually, except that I didn't meet my children until I quit that job, because it's all consuming, and I think it is to this day. And I think that's a downside for women also, because it's very hard to find a way to be a really good congregational rabbi and also be home.
Although it's interesting, among Reform rabbis now, I think women are the majority of people who are going to rabbinical school.
Yeah,
and going
my
into
class
rabbinate.
was, I think, the first one to be 50-50, and then after that, there was an increase.
So but you haven't really been involved in that at all.
I haven't. I've been, yeah.
So,
Susie had a congregation outside of DC, and she was leading them in a song, and she started laughing, and she couldn't stop laughing, and she was crying. She was laughing so hard, and slowly the congregation stopped singing and was like, huh? And she's like, I'm sorry, you are the worst singers I've ever heard in my life. And I wish it would be perfect if the whole congregation roared in laughter, but the way she tells it, they were just like.
No, the truth is, they're the sweetest congregation in the world, and afterwards they were like, Rabbi, you did such a good job pulling yourself together for the mourner's Kaddish.
it's a good thing to pull yourself together. So, why Israel?
Why Israel? Well, we thought we were going for 2 years and living on a kibbutz, and we wanted our kids to be Hebrew speakers and to feel a part of the Jewish state. And we ended up staying. And why Israel is a good question. I don't want Israel forever for our family. For now, I want to be part of creating that state. I want my children to feel as they do and as I do, like an organic, sort of a plant that grows organically from the ground. We're here. I think we're sort of our potted plants. I think we're we can grow here and we can grow and be healthy here, but it's not our history. It's not necessarily our future in the way that Israel is our future. When my kids, in Israel, they receive their Bible in, second grade the way they do here, and we're standing at Timnah, at the site where Moses and the Israelites stood and walked and passed. And you're receiving that story in your hands, and it can't really be replicated. It's a very, very powerful thing. And Israel is alive. Israel is, for all the PR that Israel gets that's not so great. What was it your friend said, the comic?
Oh, Ian Edwards. He's a comedian, and he went on tour there and fell. He's a black comic, African American, however you want to say it, man of color. He fell in love with Israel, and he's like, God, I had no idea Israel was so cool. Who does their PR? Arabs? And I told him, I know, it's true. It's like, hire some Jews.
But I kind of, you spend, I think it's hard to go there and not be overwhelmed by the sense of history and all those other kinds of things. But, mentioning growing the state and so forth, there are a whole lot of issues about what that means.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
How does that...
And we're a very liberal, left-wing family. Right. And so there are a lot of struggles, and we're blunt with our kids. And our oldest is in the army now, and she just, spent Shabbat in a bunker on the Lebanese border. Oh, don't tell him. And just kidding. She was there, but it's okay. You can tell. You're killing. But, Israel has over 80 human rights organizations. I mean, this is a country, with a lot of Jews. So, think of like the ACLU or,
Planned Parenthood?
Times 80. I mean, it's a very activist place, and it's very exciting, and our family is involved. And I mean, it's real and it's immediate, and there's fear involved. And my husband was going to Beersheba because his Bedouin partners, he's in renewable energy, and there were Muslim holidays, and he needed to go to Beersheba, and he wanted to bring my kids because he wanted them to be part of bringing gifts to the families in Beersheba that he works with. And my kids were afraid because of the Qassam rockets that are falling. So, I mean, you don't wish for any of this, but it's real. Like, they have to think about the world in a very serious and immediate way. Like, here we have Bedouin friends, we want to bring them gifts in celebration, but there are also bombs falling nearby. And so, like, how do we figure this out, and what kind of world do we want? And it's all very immediate and real. And I want to raise children who care about the world and who can feel the world's ills, not from sitting in some living room somewhere, but by being out there and being in the world and on the streets and engaging.
It's a very internally conflictual society, though, now, isn't it? I mean, are you buffered from that at all, living on a kibbutz and not dealing with the conflicts, intra-Jewish conflicts that go on?
Well, we moved, actually. We live in Jerusalem now.
Ah, you're in Jerusalem.
And we're not entirely buffered from that. I mean, we don't have to engage with it all the time, but we have to engage with it to some extent. And it's as I sort of mentioned before, it's infuriating. And it's very, very hard, and especially because I feel there are certain Jews who are really absolute. I got in an argument with a Haredi guy, with an ultra-Orthodox guy outside my apartment once, and I said to him, "Do you know what God wants of you? Do you know it?" And he said, "Absolutely, I know it." And I said, "Well, that's idolatry. It's verbal idolatry. Instead of holding an idol in your hand, you're holding an image in your mind, but it's really no different." And so I feel like it's our job, as progressive Jews, to fight idolatry and to realize that this whole Judaism, which I love and I'm part of, but it's something we've created in our minds and through history, and it's something we engage with, and it's beautiful. That's thousands of years old that we engage in this river of being. But at the same time, it's something we've created in our minds. It's a way for us to understand the mysteries of the universe. It's not absolute. And as soon as we get to absolute, danger sets in.
So, as you...
You crazy.
Has your view of the U.S. changed as you've been living in Israel and of American society?
Well, look at the Republican candidates, my Lord.
It's like that bar in Star Wars.
I mean, I feel like I look at the Knesset and I think, oh, maybe we're sane. It's like...
That's one way of looking at it. So.
Yeah, do you mean religiously? Do you mean...
Anyway, you're living, I think a lot of people find when they travel and they live somewhere else that you look back at what was home and it changes because you're not there anymore.
It does change. But I still really love it here. I really love it here. I mean, Boston area feels very much like home to me. And I really love America. I love the way things can flower here. I feel like the same thing is happening there that's also happening in some segments here, the way that it's happening in some segments in Israel, which is this absolutism and this total and utter lack of humility.
So now that you've mentioned elections and so forth, Sarah, a lot of people got to know you through the Great Schlep. And I was wondering, looking at all the candidates now who are running for president, if you could do an ad for any of them, which do you think would be the most fun?
An ad for any of these guys?
Any of these guys.
These Republican guys?
Anybody running?
Well, there's only Obama, really, right?
Running, yeah. Nobody else, honey.
It's just, you know, in terms of the Republicans that are running right now, you can't really parody a joke already. You know what I mean? It's like, remember when that movie came out? You know those like Scary Movie or Bubba Movie or da-da-da movie?
Right.
And they did one, and I remember just seeing the ad, and they were like making fun of Borat, and I'm like, possible. You're just
Being Borat.
leeching off of the genius of Borat. It's already hilarious. You can't do a spoof of it. I mean, yeah, I'm not even. There's no point in even bringing up the Herman Cain commercials. I mean, it's like I thought it was a Saturday Night Live commercial when I saw it. It's hilarious, but on the other hand, I remember the Bush-Kerry election and the Bush-Gore election, and it wipes the condescending smile off my face because one of them could win.
Michael's saying maybe we should leave a little room for some questions out from the audience. Do we want to do a little bit of that?
Before we move to questions, I just want to really, really thank Gina. I want to thank Michael and Deanna, who've been so patient on that. Thank you.
Wait, is that Michael Zank?
Yeah, that's him.
Oh, I didn't put you together from the emails. Okay.
How much time do we have for questions?
He didn't have an accent in the email.
Wendy?
Swallow.
Could I?
Look at me.
We'll do a little bit of questions from the audience, but I've moderated some audience questions recently in a number of venues. Could you keep your question much shorter than you want the answer to be? Really brief, and then we'll get some answers here.
Hi. Hello. Nice to meet you.
Hi.
I'm Rita. I'm from Morocco. I'm a really big fan. This is really
thank
weird.
you. Oh, sorry.
Of both of you, of course. Of course, obviously. This is really weird to say. One of your Twitter pictures, Sarah, the one with the lipstick all over your face.
Oh yeah, why did I have that?
That was my Facebook profile picture for a month. Okay, that's not my question.
I'm trying to remember why I did that.
It was like, thank you for telling me that lipstick was used to accentuate the lips. Then you like...
Oh, right, I just like put a big circle of
Yeah, I found that
lipstick around my
hilarious.
Oh.
One of my questions was, in a Larry King interview, you said that when people were saying like you're joking about serious issues such as rape, the Holocaust, etc., you said that was more about people reacting to buzzwords. Like, do you want to expand on that or just talk about something really fun? Whatever you want.
Well, I think that I got some slack many years ago about using a derogatory word for Asian people. And it was a joke about racism. And I was clearly the ignoramus in the joke. But some people are looking for a fight. And I also I never defend my jokes. That I learned it from that experience not to, because jokes and comedy is subjective, and people are going to be offended at all sorts of myriad of topics that may seem innocuous to some people and very upsetting to others, depending on their own life experience. That's what art is. It's you take it in the context of your own world and life and experience. And so one man was, I think people who are looking for that fight sometimes react to the buzzwords and don't look at the context. And context is important in everything in life, and sometimes you're looking for a fight and you bypass that, and it's a disservice to yourself and everyone, I think. But I got famous from it pretty much, so I can't complain.
Say to Mr. Silverman, thank you for teaching Sarah swear words when she was a kid.
Hi, I'm Gabi. Huge fan of all things Jewish and funny. So I was just wondering if you had any Jewish comedian role models growing up, or even now, and Jewish comedians that or maybe movies or Jewish comedy things that shaped you as a comedian.
Oh, a couple of my favorite comedians. Steve Martin was my all-time favorite, and he is as goyim as they come. But I loved Woody Allen and Albert Brooks very much. My mom had this Woody Allen double album that I remember listening to a lot. Alan Sherman, Before Your Time, When You're in Love, the Whole World is Jewish, is one of his songs. And National Brotherhood Week, is that him too?
That's Tom Lehrer.
Oh, that's Tom Lehrer, sorry.
So a Jew.
But even recently, what I said about Adam Sandler, who's, maybe almost not a peer, he was like a senior when I was a freshman kind of thing, but I loved the way he changed the way people perceived Jews a lot. And I really liked that. And also, I don't know.
Some people have compared you with Lenny Bruce.
Yeah, that's very complimentary. I don't have a connection to him other than his history. His comedy, unfortunately, by the time it hit my ears, there had been so many. It's like when I first read Jack Kerouac, and I was like, well, this reads like every college girl's poetry book, Not because to diminish his greatness, but because he had influenced so many people and generations that I had first seen before seeing him, that I wasn't able to be as in all honesty, touched by. But I understand in his place in history, and I understand that it's very flattering. But I don't do heroin, so just saying.
Good for you.
Thank you. I need lots of praise.
So I have a question. Susan, we adore you. And your brilliance tonight is making us miss you even more. Please come home soon. So this is a question for Sarah, but Susan can riff on this also. This is not meant to be a heavy question. Do you have a personal God? That's not the question. And do you feel that personal God has a sense of humor? And do you feel that you have ever pissed off that personal God? And Susan, the riff for you is, do you ever think that maybe you need to intervene to work that dynamic out when Sarah perhaps has gone a bit too far?
For Sarah.
I'm not an atheist, I'm agnostic, because I just have no idea. I think there's so much magic in the world that I can't explain, but I also think that religion seems to be so based on location that how could one be right? That's just my thing. My personal God is I like to pretend that my therapist can see me at all times. And I like to be good for the sake of being good, and not because I'm gonna burn in hell, or not that that's a Jewish thing, or have any wrath towards me. I mean, I find times where I pray. When I was a bedwetter teenager, I made up a chant. What was that? That sounded like remember when that baby panda sneezes and it shocks the mother?
You were on praying and bedwetting.
I made up like a chant that would work, and I realize now that's probably what meditation is, but I don't know. I just simply don't know. I can't imagine there's a... You know, I heard Daryl Hammond say something on Howard Stern this morning where he said, I don't think there's a man that created things, but I'd love to know how trees are made, and that's probably something, you know.
Hi, my name is Avi. First of all, will you marry me?
Who are you
She's
talking
married.
to?
My question is, have you ever considered moving to Israel?
Me?
Yeah, you.
No, I actually just went to Israel for the first time in June. I'm not a well-traveled person. It takes a lot to get me out of my apartment, as Deanna knows. And no, I don't know if it's my cup of tea. I had a great time. I loved seeing Susie and the family and seeing their freedom, seeing kids live the way I remember, with the freedom I remember we had when we were little, where you're just out on bikes until it's pitch black and no one's worried about you. You know, it isn't as oddly not as a fear-based life for families there, it seems. But religion-wise, I didn't feel a connection personally. I get too distracted by the things that keep Susie there, which is the diversity and the seeing the things you see that you don't like and working to change them. I didn't like going to this Wailing Wall and there's like this much space for women and this much space for men. It filled me with rage more than connection, you know. And I think it's the little note, she gave me a piece of paper and a pen and I just wrote, "No more religion," and rolled it up and put it in. Seems to cause so much strife.
Okay. Hi, I'm Evie. Oh my God. Okay. My question is, when you were on SNL for however long that was, a lot of your skits or things that you did were very much around like Judaism. A lot of the jokes were about that. Do you feel like you got pigeonholed into that for being like a Jew in the cast, or was it more of a choice thing?
It was choice. I mean, I think that was probably one Weekend Update where I talked about my sister's name is Susan Silverman Abramowitz, but for short they just call her Jew. No, it's weird. I've definitely used the maximum license I can with being Jewish, for better or for worse. But as an actress, I find that even though maybe Hollywood's run by Jews, they don't seem to think. I never can play anyone that deserves love.
Oh.
I know. Figure out what that means to you and tell me. But people aren't comfortable with that. They want the sassy friend or the.
Hi, my name is Carrie. You seem very close with each other right now. And could you talk a little bit about what it was like growing up and your relationship together and how it is now with so much physical distance between you guys?
You got anything?
Well, Sarah has a.
The what? Yeah.
Okay. Sarah has this habit of exposing her breasts. Did you not know I was going to say that?
No, I don't know, that's fine.
On Skype, when my daughter's boyfriends are like just out of sight.
No, let me reframe this. Susie, Israel and LA are at odd hours from each other. So I might be like, I remember once I was just getting out of the shower and I heard it ring, and I'm just like talking to Susie, who is the only one in the frame and doesn't mention anyone else in the house, and I'm just like letting it all hang out, and we're talking, and then all of a sudden, like, an 18-year-old boy with a ponytail is like, "Hey!" on the ground like this, "Hey!"
That's not true.
What is the untruth?
Well, he walked in the door and you were in the bathroom. Yeah.
I wasn't trying to show my
No,
boobs. I
but
can't help it. They're so big.
Yeah,
You got the
thanks.
mic.
Yeah.
I got it.
Oh, I forgot Daddy's here.
I know. I just looked at him. He's just
Done from.
sorry, sweetie.
Keep going. That was great.
Yeah.
I had a similar question, but I just wanted to say that not about breasts. We could. First of all, I think I was going to say to you that I am so deeply impressed about how centered you've stayed in relationship to a famous sister. I'm an older sister, and you have just stayed yourself and know yourself, and I'm very impressed. So thank you. It's a really good model, and you're a great supporter of an older sister among your many other talents. So that's what I came away this evening with.
Excellent.
Really, it's very moving to me, actually. And I just wanted to ask both of you, as two Jewish women who clearly love each other, I'm sure you've had other issues as well, like and love and admire and all of that. In the present, how have you grown together in your different paths in life? How do you play off of each other? Do you dialogue with each other about political, intellectual, comedic things?
I pick her brain constantly so I can seem smarter in front of others.
You can't.
It's just like a direct line from me.
Yeah.
Correct. I think of Sarah Sarah, first of all, in case you haven't noticed, is brilliant. Like in her sort of unassuming, cute, whatever way, is brilliant. And I feel like comedy, Jeff and I have talked about this, and Sarah in particular is like...
She also said her venti Starbucks was brilliant this morning. So I just want to put it in perspective.
I said it was beautiful. I think Sarah's like a modern day prophet. I mean, she just like names truth as she sees it. and in a way that people can hear, unlike the biblical prophets.
And I'm in awe of my sister. She's my hero. And I bought it.
That one.
Oh, shoot. Hi, my name's Jonathan, and you don't want to say hi? This is my friend Beck. She's a really big fan. But my question for you is, when you grow old, what is the one thing in your career that you want to be remembered for the most? That could actually go for both of you, actually.
Well, my mom signs her emails, be brave, and something else. I don't know, be brave and be something else. But that sticks out to me, and I like that. Bravery, maybe. Be brave. I don't know. Don't have anything to lose. Keep your overhead low.
What do I want to be remembered for? I think I would not. My oldest is 18, my youngest is 8, and as I said, we have 5 kids. And I think I wouldn't have said this just a few years ago, but now as my older kids are really getting older, I want them really to remember me as a great mom. It really matters to me. It's not like it sounds, but also, what am I remembered for? I mean, I care about what I do in the world, and one of my passions and something that I'm working on is promoting adoption in the world. So.
Don't get your dog from a breeder. Get your dog from a shelter.
That's what I meant.
But with people.
Actually, the motto of my organization is "What's one more?"
Leora. I'm Leora. So I guess I'm just wondering, so when I was in kind of, I guess maybe 4th or 5th grade, I was over at your house, and me and your oldest daughter went up to her room, and she showed me a song of Sarah's, and it was completely inappropriate, and she ended up getting in a lot of trouble, got all her movies taken away for the night. And then when I was in Israel, just this past a year ago, you have the whole family kind of watching Family Guy together, and the little kids with, there's like, kind of emulating you and Sarah. So how did you kind of balance that as they grew up with sort of Sarah's...
Make the shift?
Yeah.
I just got tired. I mean, like, there's only so much, like, paying attention to what they're watching a person can do.
Hi, Susan. Long time no see.
Hey, Jesse!
How are you? Tell Eliza I say hi.
I will. You know that, like, this is Jesse and his parents, and I, like, we want him and our oldest daughter to get married.
Stop it. This question is mainly aimed at you because you were a BU student at one time, but Sarah, you can answer it too if you want.
She was NYU.
So I'm a Jew here at Boston University, and I'm currently a Jew who's struggling with balancing time and his faith. And I want to know how you went through that as a college student and a Jew here at Boston University in your time here.
She spent a lot of time at the library.
First of all, when I was in college, I knew nothing about Judaism. Nothing. The first time I attended high holiday services, I led them as a student rabbi. So balancing, that was no problem for me in college. But it matters to you.
It's tough, having the responsibilities as an actor and also balancing Judaism, and that's what I feel, my Jewish a cappella group Kol Echad does for me.
You didn't go to any services this year.
Yeah, exactly. Although
that sounded like Lauren.
Yeah, that's my mom. But it's I feel like I may echo some other college students here tonight who want that religious exfoliation and can't get it because they have so much work on the Shabbos or whatever have you. So.
Okay, Jesse, listen. So cute. I hope you're my son-in-law one day. No, so here's the thing. Judaism, obviously, mitzvot are obligations, right? But at the same time, you need to decide that it's what you want in your life. And because whatever you do now doesn't mean that's what you're going to do in 5 years or in 10 years. The way I look at it is this. The worst Jew is no better or no worse than the worst anybody else. The best Jew is no better or worse than anybody else. But as a people, we've done pretty good, right? So I figure I was born Jewish. I want to be part of this people that really sort of makes a contribution to the world, honestly, like above and beyond its numbers. So obviously there's something good here. There's something good in our tradition. There's something that propels us forward and makes us think about the world as a whole as well, and not just ourselves. You look at Israel and the patents and the medical stuff and all the stuff that's brought out to the world. You want to be a part of that. So you'll be a part of it. And if it means you're keeping Shabbat once a month for now, twice a month for now, or not at all at the moment, it's okay. Keep yourself a part of that. Keep yourself with this prophetic vision and this sense of who we are and what our purpose is and what you want to be a catalyst for in the world. And then all the mitzvot help you anchor that in a way that's I think, productive and moves us forward and helps us. When I first met Yosef, my husband, as you know, he was very Jewy, and he was at BU. And I was amazed that I thought, here's this guy who has all these values that I was raised with. But he has names for them that come from the Bible. He has names for them that come from millennia of tradition. So I could say, like, I really care about gay rights, which I did, and I was in all the right organizations, in college. But he would say, I care about Tselem Elohim, the fact that people are made in God's image. And I thought, wow, someday I could teach my kids, to support equal marriage. But then, God willing, there'll be equal marriage, and then what? But if I teach them that everyone isn't made in the image of God, then they're going to apply that to equal marriage. They're going to apply that to civil rights. They're going to apply that to having a two-state solution, in Israel and Palestine. They're going to apply that to whatever comes up in their lives. And so for you, hold on to those values, hold on to those time-tested traditions, and have them propel you forward as you, Jesse.
It's hard to imagine a better place to end. And so could you join me in thanking Susan and Sarah Silverman, please?